Okay, Shalom, wonderful lesson, no sorcery snake in Yaakov, and this is taken from the portion of the Torah called Balak. As we can see here, this is how I envisage all evil meeting its end, where we've got here a cobra being squashed by a python, and the python dying as a result of the cobra's poison. So that's how evil should meet its end as far as I'm concerned, and it's a very good sign to me when I look at pictures like that. That's how I like to see evil come to its end, by eating itself and crushing itself to death, poisoning itself and crushing itself to death. So no sorcery in Yaakov. This comes from Numbers 23:23. I've got this verse here. For there is no divination in Yaakov, and that word is nahash, which is exactly the same as serpent. There is no divination in Yaakov and no soothsayer in Israel. In time it will be said to Yaakov and Israel, what has God wrought? Ma po'al el. And by the way, just as a little note of interest, and I learnt this from Rabbi Breitowitz, on Yibona, I think it was, or Samech, and he said that that was the very first code sent via Morse code by the man who invented Morse code. I can't remember his own name, but his surname was Morse. So he sent that ma po al el, what has God wrought, or what has God done. Okay, so that's just very interesting for you. You know, we might all have to answer that question ourselves. Let's hope that we've got something wonderful to speak about. Right, let's go and have a look at some of these numbers then. So, first of all, I just wanted to point out Nachash. You know, there's this whole idea that the Nachash is absolutely opposite the Moshiach, and I've questioned this previously, and I've done teachings on this previously. I go along with it because that's the narrative within Judaism, that you've got the Nachash, who's got Gematria 358, and you've got the concept of the Moshiach, which is 358, and somehow the Moshiach is the holy serpent opposite the evil serpent. But I've pointed this out before. The Moshiach is basically and essentially a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Wah. He is the vice-regent, if you like, on earth, representing that name on earth and the kingdom in earth, so it is as the kingdom is in heaven. So some kind of representation of the name. There's nothing opposite the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Wah. As far as in one way of understanding it, it's just the middle central pillar of the entire of reality. And the Moshiach is a representative of that central pillar. On the tree of life, it's from Keter, Tifereth, Yesod, Malkuth, and Da'ath as well. So Keter, the internal aspect of Keter, and then Da'ath, which is like the equivalent to the outer aspect of Keter. Tifereth, which is symbolic of Yaakov, then Yosef, Yesod, foundation, Tzaddik, and then Malkuth, which is the kingdom, or which is King David, or the Holy Shekinah, or the last letter here of the name Yod-Heh-Wah-Wah. So just to bear that all in mind. So really, what is opposite the snake then? And my belief, and I've pointed this out before, is the real true opposite of the serpent is the choshon, which is, I've got a mini choshon here. Normally you see the choshon, the breastplate, this way up, but like I was told by the man who sold me this in Jerusalem, sold me in the Jewish quarter, the Shorashim shop in Jerusalem, he said that in fact we don't know what is columns and what is rows. It's been lost to us what are the columns and what are the rows. So essentially they don't know which direction to put it. So this at this time is considered a viable way of arranging the breastplate. Okay, so why is that opposite the snake then? Because it's got the exact same letters, Choshon and Nahash, exact same letters. The priest that wears the Choshon is represented by the right hand side, whereas no, the serpent is represented by the left hand side in some way. So they would be opposite. because the Nachash represents the lion magic, whereas the breastplate represents a form of divination, if you like. You are requiring, though, of the true divinity. You are inquiring of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and he's communicating to you via the Choshon and the letters of the tribes of Israel written on the Choshon that illuminate when you ask the questions. It's all to do with the Urim and Thummim as well, working together. So basically, you've got the snake that lies and fuels our imagination, and then you've got the Choshon opposite that speaks directly from God. It's a direct revelation from Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, okay, of matters of importance. So it's the absolute opposite. That's why I think the Choshon, represented by the representing also the priest in the right hand side, is opposite the snake. There's nothing opposite Moshiach. Moshiach is representing the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and there's nothing opposite that. That's the way that I like to view it. It's the central pillar. You've got the snake on the right, the snake on the left, the priest on the right, the Nachash on the left, the Choshon on the right, and the Moshiach in the middle. And we need to get to the middle path, okay? And sometimes we've got to be able to discern between the truth, what we would receive via divine revelation, the Choshon, and the lie that comes to us via the serpent and through divination and all kinds of magic and soothsaying. Okay, there is none of that in Yaakov. And another way of looking at it, the priest represents also the male member, and this is it brings peace in the home, Shalom, to a certain degree. I know that is also represented by Yesod, but there is connections to that as well. What did I want to say by that? It's a circumcised flesh. It's completely and totally circumcised flesh for the sake of holiness. Where the serpent, the lies and the ego and the poison and the everything evil is it fuels our flesh against us. It enlivens our flesh. We're going to see how important that is. Also, the priest, you got the words chesed ve'emet, kindness and truth. They go together. They go together even in the 13 attributes of mercy that reveal the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, chesed ve'emet, kindness and truth. The two of the 13 attributes of his name as revealed in the Torah of Moshe, and the two of the attributes as revealed in the Torah of Moshiach, or the higher level of revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the level of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh revealed at the all merciful levels of Keter, as revealed in the book of Micah chapter 7. It talks about give truth to Yaakov, this will come up, give truth, emeth, to Yaakov, chesed to Avraham. Okay, so Yaakov represents truth. The truth is Tiferet, the middle pillar. Yaakov is chesed, and we know, so that's the side of the priest, chesed. And then you've got the snake that's opposite that, cruel and wicked and poisonous. It's not kind and it's not truth either. Chesed where emeth go together, kindness and truth go together. The lie and cruelty go together. Okay, let's just point out those things out. These are important things to bear in mind. We've got to be psychologically prepared for reality, and thinking that somehow the Moshiach is opposite the serpent can prove problematic, because we can create a false concept of what Moshiach is. Moshiach is simply the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh revealed for us. And all that requires to be in place, the whole structure of the tree of life to be fully alive and fully functioning, to be able for that flow of revelation to come from heaven down to earth. For there is no divination in Yaakov, so we've got all these numbers. And like I say, that word divination is nahash. He's not talking about choshon the divine divination. But we go into divinity itself and ask him. So this is all very interesting. I've done teachings on this previously about the Aleph Lamed Mem, or the Alif Lam Mim from the Quran. These 3 letters that start off many of the surahs that they don't really understand what it is, and I've done teachings about it. I can't go into it in any great detail, but they're the equivalent of the Aleph Lamed Mem, the Alif Lam Mim. This is the first appearance where you've got these letters as initial letters of words within the Torah. It comes from Genesis 2:22, which he took from. It's talking about the rib which was taken from Adam whilst he was sleeping to create Eve, bearing in mind that the Moshiach also is represented by the letter He, that's also of the name Yod He Waw He. Well, certainly King David, the final appearance of Moshiach, is the final letter He of the name Yod He Waw He, and it's really, he's the king or the vice regent of the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, and blessed is he that comes in the name of Yod He Waw He. Okay, is his representative on earth as it is in heaven. So really the letter He represents, and the whole concept of kingdom represents the divine feminine, if you want to call it like that. It's a divine feminine. It's the vessel that needs to be filled with the light of his name Yod He Waw He. Just cracked the I didn't crack it, but I touched it. That was what that noise was. So basically, he represents the divine feminine, but it's not really feminine in the way that we understand it. It's the vessel to receive that Yod He Waw He desires to bestow. Yod He Waw He is the bestower. He's the altruistic one that wants to give. We are being refined so that we're able to receive that he wants to give. Okay, so we are in a way being created. The entire of creation, if you want, is a vessel that must receive that divine light, that must be flooded with that divine light and be able to contain it for the sake of his name, and not for the sake of satisfying our lusts and desires and unrectified desires, wills to receive. Okay, so we're in a process of rectifying our will to receive, so that we desire to want what Yod He Waw He desires to bestow, because he wants to give it more than we want to receive it. Okay, so we're just aligning to his will, as opposed to grabbing and having what we want because we want it for ourselves, for some stupid impulse or deranged lust or desire. We simply desire him. You know, we desire Yod He Waw He, nothing else beside him. So this is quite interesting. So this is the rib that's formed. This also contains all the aspects of Moshiach, Moshe. The 3 main aspects are the Aleph Gadol, that is Moshe. So that is the Moshiach. That is the that is the sphere of Da'ath, knowledge, that through which we know God, because God desires to be known. He desires to be intimate with us. He desires to bestow his goodness upon us. So the Aleph represents Moshe, the Lamed represents Mashiach ben Yosef, and the Mem represents David, and I've done whole teachings why that is so. If you go have a look at the Aleph Lamed Mim teachings, Alif Lam Min, I think it's how you say it in Arabic. So this comes exactly the same as this. The regular and ordinal added together comes to 729. So which he took from comes to 729. Bearing in mind this is the feminine that could be represented by Eve, which is represented by Chaya, Eve rectified. There's Chava, and then Chaya, the mother of all living, is Eve rectified. Mashiach ben David's soul comes in at the level of Chaya. he is the mother of all living. He represents that aspect of the vessel, fully rectified, fully brought from a place of chaos to Shalom. So it's exactly the same. There's another important aspect to this. Arizal says this Aleph Lam Mim, and this comes up again, by the way, just later. There's a connection to it. I'll bring it out when it comes up. Arizal says Moshe is in a state of alim, dumbness. I'll just read it for you actually, because it's really very important. This is a wonderful concept, by the way. This is from this book. Most of these you can get online. Most of these teachings that you can get online. I don't think you can actually get this one. I have tried to search it out and I can't find it. It says, I will raise from amongst them Akim Lahem Mikerev. So these initial letters again, Aleph, Lamed, Mem. I will raise for them from amongst. The initial letters are Aleph, Lamed, Mem, which spell Elim, the word for dumb. The passage from which this verse is taken states that the Jewish people will never have to guess from God what God's will is for them, unlike other nations that need to resort to divination and soothsayers. Okay, which is linked to this verse. I don't know why it's linked to this verse particularly, but we've got the link anyway, haven't we? We can see that it is actually linked to it in some way, but he's just told this is commentary on Arizal by the author of this book. It's his personal commentary. It says the passage from which this verse is taken states that the Jewish people never have to guess what God's will is for them, unlike the nations that need to resort to divination and soothsayers, which we've got here. There will always be prophetic leaders who are mystically understood to be impregnated with Moshe's soul, who will convey God's will to the Jewish people. The full verse quotes here reads, I will raise a prophet like you from amongst their brethren. I will place my words in his mouth, and I will tell them all that I commanded him. However, that word, alim, that is Aleph Lamed Mem, spells dumb. And this is talking about Moshe being in a state of dumbness. It means that the Moshiach doesn't know he's the Moshiach. He needs to be taught by who's called the Rav Lach. Okay, a teacher for you. He was promised, this is taken from the commentary of the Yochanan. He's pleading not to be left behind. He's got to go into the promised land, and God says, no, it is enough for you, Rav Lach. But those words, Rav Lach, it is enough for you, can also be translated as Rav, a teacher, Lach, for you. So it's saying that when Moshe comes in his final appearance, he needs to be raised up and taught. And when Yeshua came, the one who taught him was John the Baptist. And you can see in the phrase, I must decrease and he must increase, that is linked to the Psalm 126. You can see reference in there to this concept of Rav Lach, because if you translate it into Hebrew, you get the words Rav Lach. I'll just try and read it to you. Okay, so I've just brought this up here. It says there, look, Rav Lach, it is enough for you. So you get to see that. Just wait a minute. And you can also see how that is connected to this. I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Saviour. So you got to understand Yeshua and all the concepts of the Moshiach are an aspect of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and because there is no other Saviour than him. Okay, so they are the vice regent, if you like, for the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and the salvation that comes through that name to all of us in humanity. Okay, and we can see how it's very much connected to the concept of the Moshiach. 1089 is 3 times 363 HaMoshiach, the Moshiach. So we know that this salvation is revealed through the concept of the Moshiach. This is related to the concept of the Rav Lach. Now I'm going to show you which is Moshe, Rav Lach, it is enough for you, teacher for you. Now I'm going to show how that is related to John the Baptist in the case of Yeshua HaMoshiach. Okay, so here we've got evidence of this phrase Rav Lach in the most famous words of John the Baptist: he must increase and I must decrease, from John 3:30. Hu yelech, which is the beginning of it's hu yelech holech in Psalm 126, the one who is sowing in tears but gathering in joy. It's written holech yelech, so there's a connection there to the one who's gathering in. Moshiach ben Yosef is gathering in his sheaves, alumim. My sheaf arose and all your sheaves bowed down. So the concept of the sheaf is very much connected also to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef especially, and it's also here we can see 3 times 121 alumim is exactly the same as HaMoshiach, the one who's gathering in the sheaves. So there's a big connection. He was training him up to go out and gather in the sheaves. Where from? Well, from Edom, from this Edomite exile, and all the nations to which the holy house of the holy house of Joseph had been scattered. For the sake of the revealing of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, they were scattered into the 4 corners of the earth. So hu yelech, so we've got the lach bit. Holech, warav, increase. Wa'ani, alech, holech, haloch, וחסור. So you've got here, look, you've got the Rav Lach, and you can see very clearly Rav Lach. You can see those words written, Rav Lach, and it's talking about the halakha as much as anything. He must increase, or he in his going around walking, there's a connection to halakha, increases, and I in my going around walking decrease. Okay, so the way, he says, I am the way. This is the way that we keep Torah as it's revealed to us through Moshiach, Yeshua HaMoshiach. He revealed his way of keeping Torah to the lost house of Yosef. Right, so let's look further. Oh, just wait a minute. Okay, so that was a little bit of a detour. Weren't expecting to do that. And the woman saw the tree was good for food. So this is obviously talking about the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. It comes to 1458, which is 2 times 729. So we can see a link to this and to this. Obviously, this was connected to the concept of the serpent, and caused us it to come in, caused the entire fall of Adam into its present exiled states, fallen states. And then we've got this, the grave of Moshe, our teacher. So Moshe is obviously the reason why I've done teachings about this. I haven't got time to go through it in this week, in this lesson, but Moshe's, everybody's buried in a defect. Nobody knows where but Moshe's buried, because he's perfect. The concept of Moshiach is perfect. The concept of Moshiach in the mind of God, which is the concept of Moshiach as revealed in the Torah, is perfect. The problem is we have a concept of Moshiach that is revealed in our flesh, that is imperfect, is equivalent to a serpent. Okay, so it's equivalent to a serpent. We don't fully understand the concept of Moshiach. We limit the concept of Moshiach down to ourselves. You know, what we expect Moshiach to be. We impose on the concept of Moshiach our own ideas. Instead of learning from the Torah what the concept of the Moshiach is, we're in problems. We don't know where Moshe's buried, because we've got this concept of a grave of Moshe, because Moshe's buried in his defect. The sages say that Moshe's buried in the Gahon, the big letter Vav that's written big in the word Gahon, the belly, as in the belly of the serpent. And there's indication that that is actually Gihon, one of the rivers that came out of Eden, One of the river of Eden that split into 4 rivers. One of those was Gihon. It's one of the ways that the Torah is interpreted. It's the Torah interpretation called a remez, hint. There's lots of very significant meanings in that. But essentially that means it's very much connected to gematria. The perfection of Moshe, the concept of Moshe, the concept of the Moshiach as revealed in the Torah can be revealed through the gematria. When you analyse the phrase, the grave of Moshe, it's related to Jerusalem. What's in Jerusalem? The Gihon spring. Okay, so, and this is the spring where Solomon was anointed as king. So there's all kinds of wonderful connections that will be revealed right at the end regarding Moshe and the whole concept of his death. We're going to be talking about his death actually in this lesson because it's very important. It's very important in understanding what lessons we can draw from this particular verse regarding outer reality and inner reality. Okay, so on the outside it looks like Moshe is buried in a grave we don't know, because he's buried in his defect, and we perceive it was, well, he didn't go into the Holy Land because he was defective in some way. The Torah of Moshe went into exile, into Erev Rav exile. He was really pleading for his Torah not to go into exile. This is what the Vilna Gaon said. He was pleading, Hanan, please don't let my Torah that reveals the name of Yod Heh descend into Erev Rav influence. It descended. It became the Agadic tales that fuel our ego, that fuel our flesh, that get us all excited and fill us full of hate in a lot of cases. Hate against people that are other than us. This is a big test to overcome. This exile to which the Torah of Moshe has been exiled into, the Agadic tales, when interpreted properly according to Vilna Gaon, will reveal the concept of Moshiach. They need to be properly analysed and properly understood as a code, with the potential to reveal the truth regarding Moshe, who is the Moshiach, to reveal what is written in the mind of God, not what we impose upon the concept of Moshiach from our own fallen consciousness, our own fallen knowledge, our own fallen da'ath, so that we do not know Moshiach and therefore we do not know God. Moshiach, the concept of da'ath, should be at the forefront of our minds. Da'ath should be at the place of Golgotha, our skull. It's fallen down into our flesh, and there's consequences of that. We should perceive God through the knowledge in its rightful place, and we don't. It's fallen down into our flesh, so we get things wrong essentially. 422, which is the ordinal, and that. I'm only pointing this out because it's connected to, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and you'll see how it's connected later on. It's not directly connected this, but it's the death of Moshe is very powerfully connected. We'll see that later on, like I said. 1422 is 3 times. This is a very important number, just haven't got time to go through it. But 3 times 474 is 3 times da'ath, 3 times knowledge. Okay, we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and now we're left to sort between what is good and what is evil. In order to restore true knowledge, we've got to get it right in the way that we sort between good and evil. It's a quality of the true Moshiach, the soul of Moshiach that we've all got in us, the capability that we've all got to discern right from wrong. Got to arouse that. The Gematria helps us to arouse that. The hints of the Torah help us to arouse that. That is where Moshe is buried. What does that mean? That it means that God has hidden in the belly of the serpent, which is symbolic of the Gihon River, which is symbolic of the Remez interpretation of the Torah, which is linked to Gematria. God has hidden the truth in there for us all to find. This is our knowledge of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh when we seek that out. And then we've got this phrase, righteous righteousness you shall pursue, 1792. As we can see, it's a square ordinal for Ki lo nachash Yaakov. There is no divination in Yaakov. This is at the end of Havdalah, you know, the separation between holy and profane, or holy and mundane, I should say. You say this phrase, lo nachash Yaakov. There's a whole load of wonderful Al Tireh Avdi Yaakov, Kol Yaakov, Al Tireh Avdi Yaakov, Titain Emethli Yaakov, Al Tireh Avdi Yaakov, fear not my servant Yaakov. So there's it goes through the Aleph Bet, and each letter in the Aleph Bet, there's a statement that's linked to Torah in some way, and or linked to Tanakh, about Yaakov. So Titain Emeth li Yaakov, give truth to Yaakov. Here look, lo nachash Yaakov, there is no divination in Yaakov. That's one of them as well. So at Havdalah, you're getting empowered, or you're empowering your soul up with all these aspects of Yaakov, if you like. You're reinforcing the truth. You know, Yaakov represents our soul, that we've got to empower with the truth, so it can wrestle all the false concepts of God and attain the level of Yisrael, which is the level of the son of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Tells you that in Zohar. What is his name? Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. What is the name of his son? Yisrael. So it's all very interesting stuff. Lord God of the Hebrews, bearing in mind that Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh came for the Hebrews from exile. The Hebrews is synonymous with people of truth, people who are looking for the truth, people who are wanting to be truthful. It's on more than one occasion, Ivrim is linked to the concept of truth. Ivri Onachi, I am an Hebrew. The words of Yonah, it's related to truth, emeth, and also Ha'ivrim, and it's also linked to the concept of Moshiach, just that word on its own. Ha'ivrim comes to 327, I do believe, which is, let me just think about that. Yeah, it comes to 327, which is the ordinal of Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben Dawid, and Moshiach ben Ephraim. The ordinals 92, 116, and 129. Add them up, come to 327, which is Ha'ivrim. So it's messianic, those who want to carry the spark of Moshiach, but it's also related to the concept of truth, and I've gone through that many times in my teachings. Also the 131, 3 times 131 is 393, and 393 is Shiloh. Shiloh comes to 345, which is exactly the same as 345 is exactly the same as Moshe. So this is why it's the name of one of the names of Moshiach, but the ordinal is 48, the exact same ordinal as Yosef. So we've got Moshe and Yosef, and also David, because 2 times David, when David is rectified with the additional Yud, is 2 times 24 is 48. So you've got all concepts of Moshiach, Moshe, Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben David in the word Shiloh. 345 regular, 48 ordinal, add them both up, 393, which is, so this is connected to that whole concept. 120, which must be the regular, this is the Misbagadol, the regular ordinal must be 120, that's Eliyahu Anavi, who is the power that we need, that gives the truth over to Yaakov, that empowers our soul against our body, in order to determine the truth, and also to determine the truth of Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, and all that is involved in that, and trying to extract the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef from the false concept of the Moshiach is very difficult. We can create a lot of false gods out of the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef with our false knowledge. and we can have to and then wrestle those through the night, through exile. We're wrestling with the gods we've created from our own imagination, through the doctrines that we've inherited, the lies that we've inherited, through the Torah that we have received, been subject to exilic forces like Erev Rav, and like the forces of the Edomites, and like the forces of Ishmael, the three heads of the clipper, the three heads of the serpent. We need Eliyahu HaNavi. Why? Because he was the one that exposed Baal for what it was. And most of us, in some way, when we haven't got a correct version of Moshiach, we've not then got a correct version of the name Yod-Heh-Wawi that the Moshiach represents to us, and then we'll be worshipping something else. It's as simple as that. We haven't got the knowledge of Yod-Heh-Wawi that comes via a complete, total understanding of the concept of the Moshiach, which is in the realm of Da'ath. Moshe is Da'ath, just as Yosef is Yesod and Yaakov is Tifereth. Okay, so it's Da'ath, supernal Da'ath, and that is what is fallen, and that is what we need to restore. Our knowledge of the Moshiach, anything that we can understand about him, is going to restore our knowledge and help us to perceive Yod-Heh-Wawi in truth. Eliyahu HaNavi is very vital in that, because we're basically worshipping Baal without knowledge. Because we are believing the lies that we've been told, and the God that the Mashiach in our imagination, and the God in our imagination as a result of that. Even the fact that we don't understand the truth, we haven't separated the good from the bad regarding the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, the good from the bad regarding the concept of Mashiach ben David, the good from the bad regarding the concept of Moshe. We haven't united all the good and rejected all the bad. And we haven't gone through this process. We have a defective knowledge of God that's got some good and some bad bits. And through that defective knowledge of God, we obscure the view. And then we are worshipping something else that's tantamount to a serpent. And we are calling it Yod-Heh-Wawi when it's more like Baal. Okay. We need Eliyahu to come and help us discern the difference between Yod-Heh-Wawi and the serpent that has taken the place of our the place of the forehead, the Golgotha, the skull, just like they do the pharaohs in Egypt with their raising cobra. We need to remove that cobra and have the concept of the Moshiach there instead, or the tefillin. And the spirit of Yaakov came to life. So this is so beautiful. Why did he come to life? Because there was no more snake. There was the truth told to him, Od Yosef Chai. Who told it to him? Segula. And the name Segula is 98, and the ordinal I think is 39. So it can't be, can it? It's 98. So the ordinal must be 41. No. It must be 35. Just let me work that one out. Yeah. It was Segula that brought her to life. Segula is the name of Serach bat Asher in Midrash. She was actually Serach bat Asher. She united in some way, the sages say, with Yosef, and was able to, almost as if they gave birth to their own, to Yosef's father and Serach bat Asher's grandfather. So her name in Midrash, in certain instances, is called Segula, means treasure. The regular of that is 98, the ordinal of that is 35, which is the same ordinal as Yonah, so there's a connection there. It comes to 133, it was her that brought him to life, according to the sages. She sang a song. The brothers didn't tell Yaakov in case they frightened him and caused him harm. They didn't tell him the truth, Od Yosef Chai, so she sang it to him on her harp. And he was blessed with eternal life. He blessed her as a consequence of passing on this good news to Yaakov. It brought him to life. We need that good news, that truth, Od Yosef Chai, not the truth that we receive, not the lies that we taught through the Gospels, but the Gospels divested of their Edomite foreskin to reveal the Hebraic that foundation, the Hebraic tzedek, the true tzedek that the foreskin of Edom, the foreskin of Esav is concealing. The foreskin of exile, the outer garments of exile, just as Joseph was dressed like Pharaoh to reveal the truth. Joseph in Torah is called Ivri, the Hebrew slave. So Yaakov was brought to life. He'd been in a state where the Ruach HaKodesh had departed from him. Okay, so he was brought back to life. He was filled full of the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit Rucho, Yaakov. So beautiful. So that is exactly the same as the triangular number for this whole phrase. Okay. This is beautiful. To declare a year of acceptance for the Lord. So that's got a mispah gadol of 2,133 plus 216. 216 is Gevurah, by the way, which talks about vengeance. So we have to experience some Gevurah. It's better to experience that in words, in terms of discipline and disciplining ourselves in holy matters, rather than being sloppy and lazy and lethargic when it comes to matters of holiness. Be diligent, be mighty, and be disciplined in holy matters, so that we don't need to experience a day of vengeance. We have an alternative: to declare a year of acceptance to the Lord. 2,349 is exactly the same as this filled. It doesn't matter what way that you fill this, because it's got no vavs and no hairs. They all come to the same. So for every level of Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bariah and Atziluth, they all come to the same filling, which is very unusual, because there's usually a vav or there's usually a hair in it. Okay, which is when you think about it, it's very much there. That is very much connected to the concept of the name Yod He Vav He. So the fact it hasn't got one, it's probably some powerful connection there. The word Yaakov should have a vav. We'll come across that shortly. This is a concept that I wanted to go through, so I'll just bring both up. This is Olam Hazeh. This is one of the ways of writing this world. This world is called the world of lies, by the way. So Olam Hazeh, this world. We've got the concept of Olam Haba, the world to come. If we take the ordinal of both of them and the square ordinal of both of them, add them together, they come to 1,458. which is 2 times 729. This is also connected as well to the other spelling of this world to come. I think I'll bring it up. Yeah, so this is the more common way of saying this world, to be found in like the sages' writings. Okay. Holam Hazeh, this world, it comes to a square ordinal of 729. So we see that this these Holam Hazeh, Holam Haba, united together, is got some connection to Holam Hazeh, this world. Or another way of saying this world, just got the additional hay on it. Okay, and also to point out that the 71 is Israel and the nations. It's also the Sanhedrin and Moshe, the 70 elders and Moshe. It's also Yonah. This comes to 71. So there's lots of things. We're supposed to unite the 70 nations and Israel. And we're supposed to have the Sanhedrin and Moshe. And we're supposed to have, our prophecy restored, like Yonah. And this is also symbolic of the dove of peace. Yonah is the dove. The peace of the dove unites all. Right, so what have I got to say about that, and how's this related to this? Well, we've got a work to do, haven't we? We've got, and I will show there's a connection also between the concept of this world and the world to come, and what I'm going to talk about, the unity between Yaakov and Esav. you've got these concepts of inner reality, outer reality. Okay, it's the outer reality that is problematic to us. We've got to refine it, because the outer reality contains both good and evil. We've got to separate the good and reject it. We've got to reject the evil and choose the good. And in this world it's very difficult, because this world is the world of lies. So we struggle to discern accurately that is good and that is evil. So we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or we are choosing what is evil. Like, we are clinging to our interpretation of the Torah, even if it does nothing but fuel our ego and create hatred for the rest of humanity, make us feel superior, and make those other people feel like they are nothing, not even human. In fact, that is some of the teaching within rabbinical Judaism. That is the Torah of Moshe in absolute, complete, total exile. Plenty of people believe it, unfortunately. And there's equivalent teachings to be found in Christianity and Islam. Got to reject these teachings. This is a test for us. We've got to align it with all the other things that we've been shown, and we've got to start to think about and question some of the teachings and expose the lies. And this is what makes us Israel, because you see, those lies are going to create a false God in our imagination, who we think God is. It does mean to say, and we can worship who we think God is. This is the equivalent of Baal. We are subject to lies. We believe those lies. We perceive God through those lies. We think that that is God, and we can murder in the name of God. We can cause death and destruction and disease, you name it. This was going to make you ill, believing this. It's literally believing in a serpent and worshipping a serpent, because you're worshipping lies. You've got to have the right mentality to discern between right and wrong. Sometimes it's very simple. One of the best analogies is, think of a Nazi. Because the Amalekites that represent the Nazis is as far away from God as what you can be. We need to erase the memory of Amalek. Now let's just have a look at all these religions and see. I did a teaching on this previously, about wrestling the gods of Edom. And it's to do with the Mein Kampf and Hitler, Yimach Shemo Zikron. So basically, if your concept of God is like a Nazi commander, and this is what they're like, they literally went and signed death warrants on Jews all day long, and subjecting them to horrific imprisonment and horrific conditions, starvation, and just dehumanization of the Jewish people in the hands of the Nazis. And then they went home and they pat their dog and they kissed their wife and they kissed their children, and their children thought they had the most marvellous daddy in the world, because they're good little Nazi kids, Nazi children, and this is good little Nazi's wife, and this is the good little Nazi's dog. And yet that same man was out there doing that. And a lot of religions can be based on that. You see, when we're in the household of our God, we're so special that when God's out there slaying the nations or slaying the others that are not like us, we can rejoice about it, because he's actually doing a favour. He's ridding this world of all these dirty, low-life non-humans, and then we can just be his chosen people. But at some point, when you're not living up to standards, you can find yourself being the one subject to the wrath of this thing you are calling God. And you can be doing the dirty work for this God that you're worshipping, that's nothing more than your imagination. You can be going and doing the killing for your God, and it can be literally a test. You failed the test. You go out and you've really totally failed the test. You've missed the point. You've allowed your own ego and sense of superiority and lies to dominate, and you have done and served the lies you've believed, that can even include going out and murdering people that you don't even know, that you presume to know. You presume to judge are different from you or worse than you, because they don't believe in your own false God, they deserve to die. You're not worshipping the God of heaven and earth. You're not worshipping the God of Abraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov. You are worshipping the figment of your imagination. It is not the truth. It is a lie. You have served a lie. That same God's going to come back and bite you. That same false God. We're living in the world of lies. We're all subject to lies. And if we don't wake up to that reality and start to figure and fight for what the truth might be, those lies and those false gods created from them lies are going to cost us our lives, God forbid. They're going to destroy us. Do you know why? Because we're not alive unless we know the truth. We're not alive. We're not truly alive with the truth of his name, which is the source of life, until we let go of these lies and attach to true reality. We've got to overcome this world. The world to come is synonymous with the truth. I'll show you why. You've got the world to come here. This is ha'olam haba, the world that is coming. It's associated with Moshiach. Moshiach, it says, the coming of Moshiach, yavo Shiloh, until Shiloh comes. So the word to come is associated with the word Moshiach, the concept of Moshiach. The world to come is synonymous with the world of truth. This world is the world of lies. We've a work to do in this world. We have got a work to do to separate the truth from the lie. We need the spark of the Moshiach in order to accomplish this. I'll show you why later. So we can see how this world spelling out is connected to all these. Okay. The world to come, ha'olam haba. What's this? This is the highest second filling of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Also comes to 660, which is the square ordinal, of ha'olam haba, the world of truth. So Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, when He is filled with a Yod and Vav is filled with a Yod, at the highest level, the level of Atziluth, the second filling, according to Arizal, is the essence of a thing. So the essence of the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh is equivalent to the world to come. It's also equivalent to the spirit of truth, which we are lacking. We're lacking the spirit of truth. We've got instead Nachash. We've got the spirit of the liar. Very difficult to discern. Ruach ha'ameth. This is associated as well with Yeshua. Yeshua had to go so the spirit of truth could come. As we can see, square ordinal of spirit of truth is 3 times 393. I've already gone through 393. What is 393? Go back up to here. 131 times 3 is 393. 393 is Shiloh. So it's 345 for Shiloh. It's 48 ordinally, which is the exact same ordinal as Yosef, and it's also 2 times 24, 2 times David. So that's the entire concept of Moshiach. The spirit of truth shall guide us to the concept of the Moshiach, which reveals the absolute essence of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, and it's the equivalent to the world to come today. We can be in the world to come today. It's not subject to lies, subject to truth regarding Moshiach, subject to the truth regarding the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Give truth to Yaakov. Titain emeth li Yaakov. And this is also one of the defective spellings of Moshe. If we had a correct spelling of Moshe, where the nun included the Vav, it would come to 666. It's wholly opposite the beast. Okay, but in this defective spelling, because within the Torah there's a missing Vav from the word Me'oroth, HaMe'oroth, the luminaries. The luminaries is the concept of Moshiach, the sun and the moon. And also we've got the concept of who gives truth to Yaakov. Eliyahu gives truth to Yaakov. We'll come across that later. 5 times in Tanakh, Eliyahu has got a missing Vav from his name. 5 times in Tanakh, Yaakov has got an additional Vav in his name. His name rectified includes the Vav. The Vav represents the truth. The truth from what? Well, the truth from assessing the entire 6,000 years of creation. He's going to give us the truth. We're at the end now, so we can see it in hindsight. You can glean a lot of truth. Sometimes we've got to look at all the evil that man has done. Man has been given free choice to do evil. He has done it. We have all done evil. But when we start to follow the pattern of evil, and then and we can see beyond that into the hidden way that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has been working in a very concealed way. Concealed by what? Concealed by the evil of men. Concealed by the evil decisions that men have made, especially when you look at it in terms of religion. All the evil that's been done within the church, all the evil that's been done within rabbinical Judaism, and all the evil done within Islam. If you look at it though, you can see a pattern. A hidden pattern starts to emerge. That hidden pattern is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. The truth is hidden. The Vav is hidden. The 6,000 years of man's evil is the concealment that reveals that truth. But we have got to analyse that, and then we've got to also marry it up to the Torah of Moshe. The Torah of Moshe on its own is defective. We need the 6,000 years, the Vav. The Vav represents the 6 days of creation. We need that Vav. We need to look at what has gone on in these 6,000 years, especially the last 2,000 years, because we've got access to what has happened. We've got historical recordings of what's happened in these last 2,000 years. We look at what evil man has done, and we see a hidden pattern form, because we can trace that evil that is like a covering, if you like a foreskin of Edom. Beneath that we can reveal the true Tzedek, the truth regarding Moshiach ben Yosef, the truth about Moshiach, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh gathering in the lost house of Yosef, the truth about him wanting to establish himself as the king of Israel and the king of the nations. There's all kinds of wonderful things that have been going on, but it's all been going on in a very hidden way. It's all been hidden in the evil of men. You've got to look beyond the lies, beyond the outer reality, and down into the inner reality, which is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, because there's only him and nothing else beside him. It'll come more apparent as we go on. Right, so this, you saw that 660 was related to the world to come. So that was related to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, filled at the highest filling, the second filling at the highest filling of Atziluth, and also the Spirit of Truth. It's also connected to this. Oops. Alright, so let's just go back and make sure you're aware of that. So 660, world to come, Atziluth, Spirit of Truth, Moshe. But Moshe, when the nun is missing, it should have a Vav, really. Effectively, it should be filled with a Vav. That Vav represents the truth. But we know that in the Torah of Moshe is not enough to reveal the truth. We've also got to have the entire experience of the 6,000 years. And we've got to marry that up to the Torah of Moshe in order for the truth to be fully revealed. We can't read about the truth in a book. We've got to experience it. We've got to be aware of it. We've got to be aware of what Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has been doing. He's been fulfilling his Torah perfectly. We've got to see that. Okay, Yaakov and Esav. So, if we take the corrected Yaakov, when he's got the Vav, the 5 times in Tanakh he's got the Vav, where did he get it from? He got it from Eliyahu. It comes to 188, and Esav comes to 376. Esav's his brother. These must be united. This is body and soul. This is Israel and the nations. This is the male and the female. This is the light and the vessel. God desires for these two to be brought together. This is the inner and the outer reality. God desires to be king over both. King over Israel, Yaakov, king over Esav, the nations. The 71. The one Israel, 70 nations. The 70 Sanhedrin, the one Moshe. Yonah, the bird of redemption. The right hand, the right wing, Moshiach ben David. The left wing, Moshiach ben Yosef. The body, Moshe. Comes to 660. Okay, that is the, sorry, let me tell you what that is. That's the odd regular, and then the ordinal is 96, which comes to 960. Okay. If we add the regular plus this combination. So this is Yaakov spelt normally and Esav spelt normally. This is Yaakov with the additional Vav united with Esav. So this is Yaakov when he's empowered with the truth that brings him to life. Od Yosef Chai, his spirit was revived, brought back to life. It comes to 1122. So 558 plus 564 comes to 1122. Which is exactly the same as this. Cream and honey ye shall eat. Right, this is the talking about the concept of Moshiach. I'm going to bring both the verses up. I think both the verses come up here, maybe not. But that's got a square ordinal of 1122. And this is united to this concept. Why is it united? Because it says, cream and honey ye shall eat, when he knows how to reject evil and choose good. Okay, so in a state of inner maturity, we don't know how to do that. We're calling good evil and evil good. We are lost. We need some truth that's going to bring us back to be able to discern what is evil and what is good, or what is outer and what is inner. Okay, it's all wonderful stuff. But there's a connection. Square ordinal of chema udvash yochel. Every Shabbat I eat. This is talking about date honey. I eat butter, chema. Here it's interpreted as cream, but it's actually butter. Chema udvash yechal. I eat it with a challah bread. I don't eat it because I think I'm Moshiach. I eat it because I know that I've got a soul of Moshiach, and I know that we've got a job to do in this world to be like Moshiach. He stood in the gap for us. We've got to stand in the gap for him. That's the way I look at it. He's struggling to come. he's got to come. Yavo Shiloh. He's got to come. We've got to believe in the coming of the Moshiach. It would appear he's having trouble. He stood in the gap when we was in trouble, and I think we need to stand in the gap for him now, because he would be here if he could be. For whatever reason, he can't make it, or he's on a time schedule, and that's determined by Yod He Wahweh. Okay, there's nothing he can do about it, but we can stand in the gap. So I eat the chema dvash for that reason. We have a work to do in his stead. We've got to be his representatives. We've experienced him either through the Torah of Moshe, or even to a certain extent the Quranic teachings, that call him a different name, the Mahdi, I do believe, or through Christianity. We have been exposed to the concept of Moshiach. We need to fight to get a true understanding of the concept of Moshiach and be like that. For Christians, that is, to imitate Yeshua to some degree, to give water to the thirsty, food to the hungry, clothing to the naked, to comfort the brokenhearted. All these, visit the prisoner. These are works that we can do, acts of charity and kindness. Likewise, the Torah of Moshe, love your neighbour as yourself. That will come up, by the way. And also have love for Israel. Be seen faithful to fulfill the Torah of Moshe to the best of your ability. Okay, and be kind. It's very important to imitate the name of Yod He Wah has been revealed to us. We've been revealed is kind. When Muslims have been revealed is merciful, and many other things. Be merciful in this world. Okay. Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. So this is the truth. The Moshiach is empowered with this truth. That's how we can discern between lie and truth. That's between good and bad, between inner and outer, because it's empowered with the truth. Od Yosef Chai. What does that mean? Let's think about it. Let's think about this so we're very clear. It don't just mean believing that Jesus is the Moshiach, because that is about as false a God as you could create. But there's some truth in it. You got to wrestle with the outer reality to reveal the inner truth. Od Yosef Chai. You need to really look at the Torah, the whole story of Joseph, and then apply that to Yeshua. I've done this in previous teachings, so I'm not going to do it now. But basically, go back to what Yaakov did with Joseph. There's a story that he taught him, the story of the Egel Arufa, the breaking of the cow's neck, because he was going out into the field. The field is symbolic with, you know, our physical experience in life, in the mundane reality, or the exile to which we've been exposed. It's equivalent to the field. It's a very dangerous place. The reason why Yaakov taught him Egla Arufa was because this is, a cow's neck is broken when a man is found in a field and they don't know who's killed him. Okay, so cow is broken to atone for this whole incident, and villages are quizzed. Villages nearest a dead body are quizzed. You know, did you teach him Torah before you left him? Did you accompany him? Did you feed him? Things like that. And there's a whole series of things that they're asked. I think it's, did you teach him Torah? It might have been, did you feed him? Or certainly, did you accompany him, you know, certain part of the way of his journey? And they've got to say that these happened. And then they've got to, anyway, the cow ends up being the neck is broken. Yaakov taught this to Joseph because he knew he was sending him out into the field. It tells you in the Torah, he goes out into the field. Who's in the field? Esav's in the field. He's the man of the field. This is his territory, Esav's territory. Where are we now? We're in Esav's territory. We're in Edomite exile. It's equivalent to the field, the big field Joseph was thrown into. It didn't cost him his life, but it nearly did. Yaakov taught him Egla Arufa. The Jewish people in the Midrash say that if ever you're confronting Rome or Christianity, or it's difficult to know who Rome is now, but basically we're the authorities that govern in this current exile, you could class as Rome, because they're the ones that have got the authority, and that includes even Nazis. And they have a lot more power in this world than what you can ever imagine. It's an horrific reality that we need to bring an end to. But anyway, you got to teach the Torah regarding the Egla Arufa. I used to teach it to my children every time they was going to visit family that were non-Torah keepers, including, you know, very close family to my children. I used to teach them it, and I used to say, look, you're going to see your family, but you're going into an environment where they don't keep Torah, they don't keep the commandments, and you need to be protected from it. It's dangerous. We're told it's dangerous, so let's teach you this. And I knew it off by heart. I used to go and I'd be asking the children, and I'd be just saying the words, Egla Arufa, why am I teaching you this? We'd relate it back to Yosef. So I'd be driving them wherever they needed to be to meet the family for visitations, and I taught them that on the way, and they got taught it a lot. When Yosef finally appeared to Yaakov, he sent chariots, and they're called eglot, something along those lines. I think they're called eglot. It means cows, and there's a reason why. He was communicating to Yaakov that I have been in this Egyptian exile, but I have not succumbed to the field of Esav. I have not forgotten who I am. Okay, it was a sign that only Yaakov knew. That's how we knew ultimately that Joseph was alive, because of the sign of the cows. It came in the form of the chariots, and some said that they had images of cows on the chariot, but the word used is eglot, which is plural for cows, for cow. He maintained his Hebraic roots even though he was exposed to horrific exile. Yeshua, who is Yeshua HaMoshiach, is the same. He has been dressed up like the gods of Rome, in all the filthy outer garments imaginable. Even the acts of the Nazis have been done in his name. It's all lies. It's all lies. We believe these lies, and we get an image of who Moshiach ben Yosef is, or who Jesus is, based on the lies he's been dressed in. Because he's an aspect of the Moshiach, this is going to create a false god that's going to come and bite us, by the way. Why is it going to bite us? Because it prevents us from seeing the hidden truth of Yod-Heh Waw-Heh. It's simply a lie. It's not the truth. the truth that we get rammed, the version of Jesus that we get rammed in our faces is not the truth, but we respond to that lie with another lie. We get a double concealment. We get pots of boiling excrement. I've recently done videos about this. It's a double concealment, because not all, it's a response to a lie with more lies. So you're left with a double problem. Not only do you have to face the reality of the lies other people that are exposed to, but then you're believing lies about the lies that they're exposed to, and think that's God. You're in a tangled web, and none of it's the truth. Yet you are believing in God via these lies. And this is fueling your ego and your imagination as to what God is doing in this world. God is doing nothing that you think He's doing. He's not creating false gods. He is fulfilling His Torah. You see, Joseph was dressed up, Yeshua is dressed up. Hidden under that is a Hebrew man. A Hebrew man. Okay, it may be a very, very, very special man, but he's still a Hebrew man. He's a human with a very exalted soul. The most exalted soul that any human will ever have. But he's not God. I talked about this in the last time. So when we said Joseph is still alive, we've got to know from start to finish how Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has fulfilled his Torah perfectly, in truth. And we've got to divest that of all the lies that truth has been concealed in. So when we say Od Yosef Chai, when we give the truth over to Yaakov, we need to know exactly what we are saying. Because it's not words. It's knowledge. It's knowledge that there is only Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, nothing else beside him, and he has for the last 2,000 years been fulfilling his Torah perfectly. That's going to give us a lot of reassurance. And when we see it, we can't unsee it. So that's connected up to this, because ultimately Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, he's subduing the nations. He's creating out of the nations a vessel that can receive. Esav's greedy. Is that aspect of creation that desires to receive. God desires to give. He needs something that desires to receive. But Esav for himself is selfish and egotistical and arrogant. And God does not want to give himself over to a vessel like that. So Yaakov needs, in a way, to, powered up with the truth, subdue Esav to Shalom. Shalom has got exactly the same gematria as Esav. Where are the vessels of Shalom? Where do we get them from? We get them from subduing Esav. It's from subduing the nations to holiness. How can we do that with the truth? What truth, Od Yosef Chai? Given over to Yaakov. And it's the whole circumcised Yesod. It's Yosef completely, totally divested from the foreskin, the outer garments he's been concealed in, for good. You can also see there's a connection up to this cream and honey he shall eat, because the square ordinal plus the triangular number comes to 1730, which is 5 times 346, and we've also got this, Yod Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, 346, 92 by the way is the ordinal for Moshiach ben David, when David has got the additional Yod, the rectified Yod. So there's a connection between Od Yosef Chai and Moshiach ben David, spelt Daleth Vav Yod Daleth. It's in 286 times within the Tanakh. And this is really interesting. Okay, so there's Aptarav. This is a beautiful story. I learned this from Rabbi Bretowitz again, along with the Morse code. He's a good rabbi. I enjoy him. He's on Yiboneh and Osmech. I have a lot of respect for him, and he's a very good teacher. He brought me a lot of comfort regarding Jews that I just felt was behaving disgustingly, and I had a lot of hate in my heart after listening to these particular Jews, and I'm just so glad that I listened to him and his version of a question that was being asked to him, and he brought me a lot of comfort. He made me understand why Jewish people think like that sometimes, and you know, you've got to be merciful and you've got to be understanding, and it's so it comforted my soul, because I had a lot of hate for my Jewish brothers and sisters based on these really what I thought was Amalekites. You know, Amalekites disguised as Jews, and the way that their attitude was toward the nations was sickening. It's sickening. It's so sad. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why they are like that, because, you know, the nations have not been nice to Jews. The nations have been wicked to Jewish people. Why would they love the nations? It's understandable. They have to protect themselves. They have to protect the children, because you know what? The wickedness of the nation would wipe out every Jew that there was in this world. It's understandable. They have to protect themselves somehow, and if that is creating a barrier between Jews and Gentiles in order to protect their lives, then it has to be done. There is no room for ideals when your lives are threatened. So I have a lot of respect for. I know sometimes I go on about my Jews. I have a lot of expectations from my Jewish brothers and sisters, but then there's reality of the world in which we live. The world in which we live is evil towards Jewish people. It would kill. There's a lot of the nations that would kill every single Jew still. The nations would have not learnt from the Holocaust. They would see it happily happen all over again, with more accuracy. So I just think the Jews need to behave how they are with their intuition, their wisdom that they have gained from dealing with the non-Jews for the last 2,000 years. Whatever wisdom that's caused them to survive, they need to keep doing it until the nations have been rectified. Okay, but we've also got to at least have thoughts, at least have a conscious awareness of God's plan, Yahweh's plan, because this can cause us to behave in ways that might impact differences, that might create bonds that could prove very beneficial, you know, for both Jews and Gentiles. Unity between Esav and Yaakov, it's got to come. You know, we've got to try and find a way to make that happen. God is not going to wave a magic wand. We've got to be actively involved in this unity. You know, we can't forever keep our body keep hating our soul, keep hating our body, and our body keep hating our soul, because you know what? One without the other is dead. A soul without a body is a poltergeist. No good to anybody. You know, the concept of the wandering Jew. You know, you're just wandering, you're aimless, you're bodiless, you know, you're homeless. And a body without a soul is dead body. There's no winners from disunity. It's very difficult to create unity, but there's no winners. As long as we are hating one another, there are no winners. We've got to find a way to unite. The truth is what empowers us to unite. The truth, the true purpose of Esav, the true purpose of Yaakov, the empowering of Yaakov with the truth for Yosef Chai, and the incredible implications for that. You know, the fact that Yeshua, or that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh has used this salvation that represents his name at the level of Keter to go out into the nations together in the lost of the house of Yosef. It's all incredible stuff that we thought were just Edomites. But no, God knew who exactly they were, who was gathering in. It's all phenomenal stuff. When we start to open our eyes, we start to see there's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, nothing else beside him. Going back to Rabbi Bretowitz, however, and the Apterav, this is from the Apterav, is also called Ohev Yisrael, because of a book that he wrote, The Love of Israel, I do believe. So he's asked about each Torah portion and how that relates to love, because obviously he was associated with the love of Israel, Ahavat Yisrael. And he's saying how the Torah portion of Balak related to Ahavat Yisrael. He says it's in his name. He says it's in the name of Balak. I said, how is it in the name of Balak? He said, the vase is va'ahavta. The lamed is l'reacha. The kuf is kamocha. And the person says that the two letters aren't even the same. The bait, the bait is, it's a vav, not a vase. The lamed is a lamed, but the kuf is it's a kaf for wa'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, which is you shall love your neighbour as yourself, which is the entire height of the Torah, by the way, that and you shall love God with all your heart, soul and strength, you know, but it's the pinnacle of Torah, you know, and yet it's Balak, but this is a great Rav, and it's not even the letters that the same, the sound the same, va and vase, and kuf and kaf, but they're not the same letters. The Apter said, he says, when it comes to love, we can overlook the details. So I just think that's absolutely wonderful, because we are going to have to overlook a lot of details. We are going to have to overlook a lot of details when it comes to love. And love, it says that the second temple was destroyed with hate. The final temple will be built because of it was baseless hate with baseless love. Okay, I've got a slightly different version to that, but I'm not going to go against what the sages have said. There's a before you get to baseless love, you've got to have what I call the opposite of baseless hatred, justified hatred. To me, opposite love, if it's baseless love, the opposite is not baseless hate. The opposite of baseless hate is justified hate. And this is when we've got to think like a Moshiach. We've got to hate that that's worthy of hate and love that that's worthy of love. We've got to be able to discern good from evil. You know, we've got to make that separation, and sometimes we've got to be very clear about it. And baseless love can be as destructive in a way as baseless hate, because if we're unjustified, you can end up loving what is unlovable. You can end up loving the problem that's preventing, you know, the necessary action that needs to be taken, i.e. reject evil and choose good. What we tend to do is, well, we've got to just, we're overlooking the wrong details, you know. When it comes to loving our neighbour, yes, we do have to overlook a lot of the details, even like this. Even when they're behaving like Balak, we've got to love your neighbour as yourself. However, we've got to be very careful that we are not calling what is good evil and what is evil good. And this has got to be a very fine line. We've got to apply wisdom. We've got a job to do to sort the evil from the good. And it's all right spending all our time loving people like us and hating people because they're not like us, and creating a lot of division and thinking that this is somehow honouring of God, when God is expecting you to create unity between all peoples, between Israel and the nations. So if you're busy loving people who are not really worthy of love, you're overlooking the details in that area, well, try scrutinising the other area to find that that's hidden in it. Try scrutinising beyond the outer appearances to find that that's hidden within. Because once you have found what's hidden within, you see all those outer appearances will suddenly vanish. You see all those outer details that you now focus on, they will be no more. I can guarantee you see God is involved in this. You see that the heart of this matter is Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh himself. You see what he is doing. You see all the outward, see all the outer exile. You see that shell that you're so obsessed about, that you're trying to keep away, that you're calling evil. It will be no more. You'll be blind to it, because you can only, once you see the hidden light of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh at work within the lives of others, you can't unsee it. And there you can't help but love Because to see Yod He Waw is to be aware of his love for what? His love for all humanity. And not only that, his love for the Torah, to fulfill his Torah. You love your Torah, look at the way Yod He Waw loves his Torah. Look at what he's been doing to fulfill his Torah. Do you not love that too? You'll suddenly see a lot less than you did prior to that, and a lot more of what your eyes are made to see. The name of Yod He Waw alive in this world. And then this is wonderful, because she was the mother of all life filled. This is talking about Chaya, isn't it? And that comes to 1490. It's a very significant number, this. We're going to be having a close look at it. 1490. It is the square ordinals of Yaakov rectified and Esav. So Yaakov, when he's got the additional vav, plus Esav, 1490. This together is the mother of all living. The mother of all living. Not just the mother of Yehuda, not just the mother of Yosef, the mother of all living. That includes the nations also. That the sons of the nobles saw the daughters of man. So we've got our connection here. Let me just find it. Can't find it. Alright, so yeah, it comes to 1490. So it's connected to here. This is a big cause of a problem that needs rectifying, isn't it? You know, the Nephilim that this is talking about, one of the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is part of the clipper that surrounds the Jewish people. Okay, so there's lots of things that you could talk about with that. It's very, I did do an analysis of it, but I haven't done a teaching of it yet, so I can't speak too much about it at this time, but there's a definite connection between Yaakov and Esav. Okay, Yaakov should be united with Esav, and instead it would appear that some other phenomena has united with the daughters of man. You know, this all needs correcting, and these create forces that then need to be overwhelmed with the truth again. And then this is phenomenal, isn't it? I have placed the Lord before me constantly. This is what I think it was a Baal Shem Tov. It was a incredible meditation. This is like that fill-in. You know, we've got to have the name of Yod He Waw before us always. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. And this is a wonderful meditation. The Baal Shem Tov talked about this a lot. It comes to 1490, which is exactly the same as the unity between heaven and earth, between male and female, between light and vessel, between Israel and the nations, between male and female. It's all different names for it. Yod He Waw and Shalom. Yod He Waw Shalom. Okay, that's one of the names of Yod He Waw. Yod He Waw Shalom. So having before us always. Be looking at him. Don't just say, oh, that's a false god. You've got to look beyond the surface. Everything that happens in this whole world, this 6,000 years, is God fulfilling one purpose only, to reveal his Torah. What is his Torah? It's a revelation of his name. It's a revelation of his name, Yod He Waw. It's the equivalent to the first Torah stones, but he's fulfilling it via the Torah of Moshe. Okay, for us to all see. But it's ultimately everything in creation is about Yod He Waw revealing his wonderful name to us. And if you want to see it, you will. And if you want your ego to blind you to it, it will. You have to reject the impulses of your ego to create division and hate, and instead attach to your soul the desires for unity and love and truth, kindness. Mount of blessing. So Mount Gerizim, the regular and the Misbar Gadol added together, 1490. And a man wrestled with him. So this is the gods that we've got to fight, isn't it? This is the gods that Yaakov, our soul, has to fight against. Our soul that represents the truth has to fight against all the gods. This was the guardian angel of Esav. This is our outer reality. This is our outer nations. This is our flesh that creates all these false concepts of God. We've got to wrestle them ourselves. Our soul has got to overpower our own imagination. Our soul has got to over the false gods our minds created from reading about lies in the religions that we inherited. We're in exile, guess what? All of us. All of us. Do you think God's not testing you? You're so unspecial, you're not getting tested. You're so perfect, you're not getting tested. You're like the snake who was given the dirt to eat. Don't bother it. I don't even need to hear their prayers. Just give them as much dirt as they want. They don't need to trouble me. They don't need to think about correcting themselves and fighting false gods and dealing with lies because, oh, look, they've got the truth. You got the truth. Your belly's full of dirt. You're so accustomed to lies, you are actually the snake. You're eating dirt. It's not really what you should be doing. If you think that you've been handed to you on a plate the entire truth, then you must be the least. You're like the serpent. Why did the serpent get dirt to eat? So he didn't have to pester God. You're the least you're the least thought of. If you're sitting in this world thinking you've no work to do, all you've got to do is keep on doing what you've been told to do better, that you've got the ultimate answers, the ultimate truth. You've inherited truth. Everybody else has inherited lies. Well, guess what? You ain't got no job to do, because our job is to sort out the truth from the lies. Our job is to be able to discern that. You haven't been given a work to do. You've been given dirt to eat. You need to think, am I a serpent? No, I'm not. Right, okay, so I must have been given a portion of the lies too. Let's wrestle. Let's see if we can wrestle. What's fueling my ego? What's fueling my ego? What's making me like a snake? Filled full of lies and arrogance, thinking I'm better than everybody else. Even when I'm humble before my other fellows, my neighbours, I'm arrogant in my own mind compared to other people. That's just like eating dirt. You didn't even have to work for that good feeling. You just got that handed to you on a plate like dirt. It's all imagination. It's all imagination, and you're not seeing what Yod Hey Wahweh has been doing. You need to wrestle against our own God, version of God that we've created in our mind through the lies we've inherited because we're in exile. We're all in exile. Jews, Erev exile. Muslims, Ishmaelite exile. Christians, Edomite exile. Get on and fight the false gods that these doctrines and teachings and lies that you've inherited creates within you. That creates division, that creates hate, that can lead to death and destruction. Think of ways to create unity between body and soul. Reject the evil, choose the good. So that is connected up there to, that filled is connected to Yaakov before he's been given the truth, and Esav. Okay, so that's him wrestling through the night, wrestling these false gods down. Okay, before he becomes Yisrael. Gets his name from the false gods that he's been wrestling. The guardian angel, angel of Esav. That's the guardian angel of this Edomite exile. He blesses him with the name Yisrael because he struggled against man and God, and gods, false gods. False gods that Yod Hey Wahweh allowed to be created, to give us something to work against. Okay, so this is sword filled out, but it's filled out defectively. There are teachings based on some of the fillings out of Vavs that are filled defectively. I think it's written in the Zohar. I'm not going to go into those details because I haven't got them to hand, but this is Samech, which is, sword is the secret level of teachings, the inner teachings of the Torah, which is essentially the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. It's been replaced with other Neoplatonic concepts, Kabbalistic concepts that are just not the truth. You've got to reject any false gods. They're the gods of the Greeks. things like there's so much Greek philosophy based on Greek gods within the inner teachings of the Torah, the Kabbalistic teachings. That you need to reject it. You need to go and trace the Neoplatonic origins of the Kabbalistic teachings to be found within Judaism. See what gods you've actually got there and reject them. Because the truth is, there should be the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef there, and instead they've got these Neoplatonic gods that fill in the gap, that stand in the gap while he's absent. He's absent because he's been pushed out of the way, and this has filled the void. Lies have filled the void. There is no void in spirituality. So if you haven't got the truth there, you will have a lie there instead. So the secret teachings of the Torah really should be the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. This is sword filled out. Samech, Vav, Dalet. It comes to 1240, regular, ordinal, and it goes to 1458. In between that, there should actually be a Vav, an Aleph filled out, because it's a Vav filled with an Aleph. Okay, so that's how it's defective. But like I say, there are occasions where this defective filling out of the Vav is, I think it's within Zohar. I have come across it before, so I don't want to go into too much details, but essentially we are missing the entire secret teachings of the Torah, and this is our fight. You see the Aleph, that is really the concept of Moshiach. The upper Yod, the Vav, it's like the bird, isn't it? The upper Yod, the Vav, and the lower Yod, the two wings and the Vav in the middle, is missing. We haven't got the correct concept of the Moshiach. So the secret inner Torah teachings of the Torah are defective, and it's our job to wrestle, to reveal that truth, to find that lost knowledge, and to have our knowledge of God restored as a consequence. Right, and then we've got this one, and these are the generations of Esav, that is Edom. So 1490. We're going to be having a look at 149 next, because this is phenomenal. As we can see, we're in the Edomite exile, so this is related to all this in a wonderful way. We've got to fight the forces of Esav, the negative forces of Esav, to subdue it to the side of holy, to the side of Shalom. Right, so let's go through this then. So we've got the 1490. King of the nations. This is what God is trying to accomplish. He's trying to become not only King of Israel, but King of the nations. This is the hard work, by the way. We've been seeded and scattered to the four corners of the earth in order to accomplish this will of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. How do we know it's the will? We'll come across it in a minute. Yeshua 149, filled out this way. I think this is the ordinal, and the ordinal Mispah Gadol, and the nuns are 25, I think they would be. I will set up for them from amongst. So we've got this Akim Lohem Mikerev, which we talked about at the beginning, didn't we? That's 149 too. So very significantly related to this. Now this is 10 times all these, what we're now going to go through, but we're looking at 149. So that goes back to the very first things that we're talking about. 127, by the way, is another filling out of Yeshua. It's this filled out, but it's not the Mispah Gadol, it's the regular of this filled out. So that would be 20, 45, 22 and 40 goes to 149, or it comes to, sorry, 127. Yeah. And then this is when the nun is 25 instead. So exactly the same filling out there, but without the Mispah Gadol, the nun, it comes to 127. Okay, so it's 22 apart, which is 2 times 11. It normally would be 14, and then it goes to 25, so it's 11 more for the nun Sophite. For each letter, that's 11 and 11 is 22, and that's why there's 22 difference between 127 and 149. Because instead of that being 14, it becomes 25. Instead of that being 14, it becomes 25. So essentially the same. I will set up from among them a prophet. Also, 127 times 5 is 635, which is the square ordinal of Moshe. So they're related. Yeshua and Moshe is the same soul of Moshiach, but at different levels. And then we've got this phenomena here. So Gashmiyuth is the externality of our reality, and Ruchniyoth is like Ruach, the inner reality. Now the two concepts of death, one's related to Eliyahu, one's related to Moshe. One is the memory of the one who's died, and then one is the actual preservation of the body of the person who's died. You know, the pristine perfection of the body. One is the remembrance of the soul. So Moshe and Eliyahu are related to that, because Eliyahu, he represents the he went up into heaven. He went up into heaven completely and totally rectified physically. His body even ascended into heaven. He was so perfect. Okay, so he overcame death of the body. He didn't have to physically die. He got elevated into heaven alive. Now, according to the sages, Eliyahu was 12 months gestation. He had 3 months in the womb, and this means that his materiality, his physicality was much more mature and thicker, much longer than normal people. 3 months longer in the womb, developed. So this represents Gashmiyuth. This represents our flesh, our physicality. Okay, but Eliyahu overcame all that. He overcome all the flesh. What is the problem with these false gods? They're caused by our flesh. They're caused by our knowledge dropping down into our flesh and creating lies. Eliyahu is the one who gave truth to Yaakov. He, like I said, 5 times in Tanakh, Eliyahu has got a missing vav. 5 times in Tanakh, Yaakov has got an additional vav. So he represents overcoming the outer aspect of our reality. Gashmiyuth, the Esav, the flesh, with the good news. Okay, glad tidings. If we add them together, however, they come to, and the Ruchniyoth is Moshe. He was less time in the womb. The sages say it's possibly 6 months, some say 7 months. He was like up to 3 months less in the womb. He was less physically developed. When he died, though, his physical body died, but his soul, it was like the kiss of heaven. His soul was preserved, but the memory of Moshe has been preserved. So his memory didn't die. Lots of people die and they're forgotten. Moshe has never been forgotten. He overcome the death of his memory. So there's that 2 aspects of death. The death of the body, Eliyahu overcome. The death of the memory, Moshe overcame. So together united, the 2 aspects of death that needed to be overcome. Together, Eliyahu and Moshe united, overcome both of those aspects of death. So one represents Gashmiyuth, one represents Ruchniyoth. Moshe is related to Yaakov. Moshe is a reincarnation of Yaakov. We talked about Yaakov's Rucho, being brought to life with the truth of Yosef Chai. So Moshe is very much connected to Yosef. He goes and gets the bones of Yosef, and they leave exile as a consequence. And not only that, the sea opens and splits on account of the bones of Yosef, which represents the good that Yosef has done in exile in Egypt. We need to bring out the bones of the Moshiach ben Yosef. The concept of Moshiach, the essence of Moshiach ben Yosef, is buried deep in exile, with every force of the Nachash to keep him buried, because you know what the nations are merited on account of concealing the truth regarding Moshiach ben Yosef. The concept of Moshiach ben Yosef has been handed over to Esav, to Edom, to Rome, to the Vatican, and they have conjured up some magic to keep him there. We need him out. Okay, We need to bring him out, just and it needs to be revealed to his brothers that he's Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. Moshe is interested in that. Segula, but Tzrach Asher interested in that. They were the two people that got the bones of Moses, the bones of Yosef. The entire split, the sages say the entire sea was split on account of the coffin of Moshe, of the coffin of Yosef. Those are two arcs together. I think that number comes up again. The two arcs together, the Ark of the Covenant and the Ark of the Aaron of Yosef's bones. Moshe carried those. Okay, so it's all so beautiful. So it's the same as there. We'll set up from amongst them. There. That's why I've included that, because it's got this connection. Okay, to this here. I will set up for them from amongst. That's why I've included that, because it's so relevant to what I'm talking about. So Ruchniyoth is the inner light, isn't it? That's why Moshe's face glowed, and he only was 6 months in the moon. His womb is 3 months less. Eliyahu 3 months more. Okay. So together there was they had the right gestation for two babies. If you put them together, 18 months they've got together. So there's a lot to be learned in that. It's all wonderful. 110, by the way, is the concept of 110 is the ordinal of Yeshua HaMoshiach, and that comes from the ordinal of Gashmiyuth, the ordinal of Eliyahu, together come to Moshiach ben Yosef. It comes to the ordinal of Yeshua HaMoshiach, who, by the way, is absolutely enslaved in Gashmiyuth, the layers of exile to which these bones have descended, that we need out now. We need to overcome all the powers of the Nachash with the truth. Oh, Yosef Chai. We need to explore that concept to its absolute depth, to see just how perfectly Odewa in love and joy has been fulfilling his Torah. We need to be aware of that and connect to that. It enlivens us to overpower those external forces that are in all our lives, that delusion, that serpent that's there instead of the Moshiach, that knowledge that's fallen that should be raised up, that knowledge through which we're able to perceive the glory of Yod while we're filling the earth as the waters cover the sea. It's a connection. Yonah filled out that way, 149. He is Yonah. There's Eliyahu goes to Yisrael to teach them about their false gods. Eliyahu got all the Baalim, the worshippers of Baal from Israel. He even thought that everybody in Israel was worshipping Baal. He made a mistake. Yodewah corrected him, and I do believe he suffered on the consequence of that, but he must have been corrected because he went up into heaven. His body went up. Unbelievable. So you've got to go into Israel to teach them about the false gods is Eliyahu. You see, if you're not too sure the God that you worship is a God of Yodewah in truth, you need the spirit of Eliyahu. You need the truth to give from Eliyahu to be given to your own soul, to overpower these false gods that we create whilst we're subject to the forces of Edom. We're all in exile. We all inherited lies. We've all got to do this battle. Every single one of us have got to battle against the imagination, the way we have imagined God to be. This monster sometimes. People are worshipping literally a serpent, and they are like little vipers biting everybody. Correct this. The power of Eliyahu for Bnei Israel, the power of Yonah for the nations. The Yonah was able to correct Pharaoh, bring him to a place of repentance. Pharaoh thought he was a god. These sages, Saint Piquet, Eliezer, I do believe, they say that in one of the midrashes anyway, they say that the Pharaoh of the Exodus itself fled to Nineveh. Yonah was sent to Nineveh. He was sent to the nations. He was non-Jewish. This was a non-Jewish metropolis. So Yonah is associated with the lost house of Yosef. Eliyahu with Israel, okay, and the Baal worship. And he brought him to repentance. And when this Pharaoh kneeled, the entire metropolis kneeled down with him. There was all sackcloth and ashes, even the animals. Okay, these big giants, these big pharaohs, these big heads of state, these big Edomite, who act like they got God himself, when they bow down, when Jonah reaches their shores, they can bring the entire metropolis down with them. You imagine if it's people like, the leaders of China and the leaders of Russia and the leaders of, other big nations, India, when they bow down, they'll bring everybody with them. Okay, so Jonah is the sign of Moshiach ben Yosef. So Eliyahu really is connected to Moshe a lot, and Eliyahu precedes the Moshiach, precedes the revelation of Moshiach. We've got to be empowered to overcome these false gods in order for Moshiach to be restored, in order for our knowledge of God to be fully restored through the concept of the Moshiach. So Jonah is very significant again. This is the interpreter, Hamed Litz, the interpreter. By the way, 233 is Etz Chaim, tree of life. He spoke the holy tongue, by the way, so he could communicate between Yosef and the brothers. It was Menachem, I do believe. No, I've got that wrong, haven't I? Manasseh. I think it was Manasseh. But the Misbah Gadol plus the ordinal, which is Chen, grace, comes to 1043, which is 7 times 149. Again, Yosef was, it wasn't just to correct Israel, he also, the correction of the Erev Rav. Hashem has a plan, Yodewa was a plan, Moshe had a plan, he had a will to accomplish something. It will ultimately all be accomplished. We will all repent when the truth is revealed to us, God willing that we all repent. Now this is very fascinating regarding this number 149. This is just goes to show how significant it is for God to bring the nations into a place of repentance. Okay, she got the first verse of Torah. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It was an ordinal of 298, which is 2 times 149. You've got this concept in Saviour, the end is wedged in the beginning. Let's go to the end of the Torah. It says, Le'ene kol Yisrael. These are the very last words of the Torah. So you've got the last word of the Torah being a lamed, and the first word of the Torah is a beth. It should be Bereshith. Let me change that. Okay, so I've corrected that now. Bereshith. So Lev, last letter, first letter Beth. Together they are Lev, heart. From where we love our neighbour as ourselves. Before the eyes of all Israel comes to an ordinal of 149. So 2 times the 149 is the end is wedged in the beginning. What's the end, beginning and end of Torah? 149, which is Melech Israel, which is Yeshua. So all these things, Jonah. This is the beginning and the end of Torah. This is what all these concepts, when we understand them, they're going to bring us to a place of love. Because then we start to see, Yodewa, we had a plan. He had a plan and he fulfilled that plan. And it's a good plan. Okay. If we add the 298 and the 149 up, the last phrase of Torah and the first verse of Torah comes to 447, which is Wa'emeth and truth. Wa'emeth. The beginning and the end of the Torah is the truth. This is also one of the 13 attributes of mercy as revealed to Moshe in Exodus. And with that, I will say Shalom. This is a phenomenal lesson. I'm not going to play any music anymore because it keeps coming up that I've breached copyright even though I've downloaded free music. So I'm just not going to bother. Twice I've done it and I've ended up going around and having to mute all the sounds. It takes a long time. So subscribe and share. And if you've made it this far, well done and Shalom.